Hi, my name's Renata. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a language teacher, intercultural trainer, and communication skills coach. That's why my channel is dedicated to intercultural communication and expat life, business skills and job search across cultures, and foreign language learning. The video today falls into the third category, foreign language learning, and is dedicated to German pronunciation. So, if you're one of my clients, I've probably given you this link because it's a great way to review pronunciation, things we have practiced and you might have forgotten over time. And if you're not one of my clients, you may still benefit from this free video on YouTube. If you like it, please subscribe and come back to check out some more of my videos. In this video, I'll explain the most important things about German words, pronunciation. I'll even let you guess a few words at the beginning of the video. I'll show the difference between the unpredictable way of pronouncing words in English versus the very predictable way of pronouncing words in German. So if you'd like to read things out loud in German, communicate more successfully, more effectively, pronounce words correctly when you speak German, all you have to do is study the pronunciation rules and you get something like 95, maybe even 98% of the words right, because it's a very predictable language. So I hope you enjoy this video about German pronunciation, and you'll see me again at the end of this video. As always in my videos, I'm going to share some slides with you, and this one, like I said, is dedicated to German pronunciation. In this presentation, I'm going to give you some German words to guess. That's how we're going to get started. Then I'll introduce the German alphabet to you. It's very useful for spelling. We'll practice that also a little, and then we'll move on to the letters and letter combinations that are usually perceived as difficult. Difficult to say, but very important to know what the rules are, because if you stick with the rules, you'll be able to pronounce most words correctly. And then at the very end, you can try yourself. I have a pronunciation challenge for you. How would you pronounce these words, their entire sentences? Let's see how you do. But let's start with a few German words I'd like you to guess. Let's start with some touristy words. If you've ever been to Germany, you probably know Oktoberfest, Bier, Bratwurst, Apfelstrudel. But would you have pronounced them the way I just did? Oktoberfest. I hope you noticed that German does not have an R sound like American English does. So it's not Oktoberfest. It is Oktoberfest. And the word that looks like beer, because it means beer, is pronounced Bier. Bier. So I hope it gives you a little bit of an indication what certain pronunciation rules are. Bratwurst, Apfelstrudel. Yeah, there's a sh in the middle. You don't see an H, but there's a sh. So these are certain pronunciation rules. If you apply them consistently, you'll get those words right. But here are a few other words for you to guess. Mutter. Yes, it means mother. Vater. Yes, it means father. But why did I pronounce the V like an F? Well, it's one of the German pronunciation rules. Vater. Wasser. Yes, the W sounds like a V, and the ER becomes a at the end. Wasser, meaning water. Sommer. That's easier to guess, summer. But again, the ER at the end sounds like a. Sommer. Lampe. Yes, we do pronounce an E at the end as an Lampe. Meaning lamp, obviously. Musik, meaning music, but there's a shift in syllable stress. It's not Musik, it's Musik. Musik. Katze. Maybe not so easy to guess. It's a cat. Katze. Butter. Yes, that's butter. Hundert. And yes, that's 100. Buch. Now that's a difficult sound to make. I have to admit, German pronunciation rules are very straightforward, but the CH sound is one of the most difficult ones, and I've kept it to kind of the very end of this video. So in this case, our CH sounds like a Buch. I very often hear people trying to replace it with a K sound, Buch. Well, and that helps you to guess what it means, right? So Buch means book, but it should sound like a Buch. House. Yes, the AU sounds like ow. House. Hand. Easy to guess, right? Shoe. Also easy to guess when you hear it. You probably wouldn't have guessed it seeing the spelling only. And fun fact about German, if you put those two words together, Handschuh, a handschuh, that's the word for glove. Yes, German does have these kind of funny compound nouns. You'll discover them as you study the language. Finger, easy to guess. Tochter, meaning daughter, but think of the spelling of the English word daughter. So there's an A, a U, a G, and an H, but we don't say them. But if you were to pronounce the GH as a H, Tochter, there we are. There's almost the German word, and that is a very good example for showing how very much related the two languages actually are. And I do have other videos about English and German and the difference between the two languages. So if you're interested in that, check out those other videos as well. Now let's have a look at the German alphabet. Knowing how to pronounce each letter, like in the alphabet, helps you with spelling. Imagine you have to spell an address, you have to spell your name. Then the German alphabet is something you need to be familiar with. So how do we pronounce the letters of the German alphabet? I'll just go through it slowly, and if you want to, you can repeat after me. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now, why are there three different colors? Well, I believe everything in the color black is easier to pronounce than the ones in red, which are very hard to pronounce or unusual. And the ones in orange, they have the same sound at the end of the letter, the sound E, which is the letter E in English. So all the orange ones have an E sound at the end. B, C, D, E, G, P, T, V. Whereas the ones in black color seem a little easier. A, F, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, Q, S, X. And I'm pretty sure you were surprised when you heard the ones in red color. J, R, U, V, Y, Z. Or maybe you were not surprised. It very much depends on what your native language is and what other languages you know. In addition to those letters, German has an additional 4 letters. and they are the following: Ä, Ö, Ü. Scharfes S. So the letters A, O, and U have a version that has two dots on them called is a so-called umlaut. So there are three umlauts, Ä, Ö, Ü, and there's this funny looking letter that looks like a B, but it's not, often called scharfes S. Some people call it SZ. It's pretty much a double S, or it used to be an S and a Z. But when you pronounce it, it sounds like an S. So these are the letters from the alphabet. If you want to practice this one more time before we move on to the spelling exercise, just rewind the video, listen to it again, because here we go. Here comes your spelling exercise. We have a lot of words that are simply abbreviated by 2, 3, or 4 letters, and we know exactly how to pronounce them in our native language. But I'd like you to pronounce them in German. So if I show you this company's name, we know that in English it sounds like this: IBM. But how do you do it in German? I'll always give you a few seconds to think about the pronunciation, to try it, and then I'll say it. All right, here we go. IBM. BASF. CD. DVD. Okay, you don't know the letter, the number 4. The word for the number 4 is vier. MP4. VW. BMW. EU. ISBN. USA. WHO. DB. ICE. ZDF. All right, how did you do? If you want to do it again, just rewind the video. Go over it again. And if you want to know what the letters stand for, okay, I'll quickly go through this. So IBM and BASF are obviously companies. VW and BMW are also companies, car manufacturers. That should have been easy. You know what a CD and a DVD and an MP3 format is. You probably know what an ISBN, that book number, is. EU stands for European Union. The USA, very obvious. WHO is the World Health Organization. And then I added in 3 German words. DB stands for Deutsche Bahn. That's the operator of the German trains. ICE stands for Intercity Express. That's one of those super fast trains in Germany. And ZDF stands for Zweites Deutsches Fernsehen, one of the main TV channels in Germany. So that's what these abbreviations stand for. And you can see that when you have to spell things, the German alphabet is very useful for that. Like I said, it's also useful for spelling an address or your name. So I'm going to spell my name for you, and then you can do the same with your own name as an exercise. R, E, N, A, T, A, U, R, B, A-N. Renata, das ist mein Vorname. Urban, das ist mein Nachname. At least this is how I would pronounce my name in German. Now try yours if you want to. No funny letters in there, but I suppose there are names that are more difficult to spell. After having gone through the alphabet and the spelling, let's move on to letters and letter combinations that most people find quite difficult, and that can also help you to pronounce words correctly once you've memorized the pronunciation rules. But before that, I'd like to point out the difference between German and English. English is a highly unpredictable language in terms of pronunciation. German is not. So even if you find German hard to pronounce in the beginning or strange or can't get used to it, please remember it's actually very easy because it's very predictable. Once you've memorized the rules, you're able to pronounce a word correctly. With English, not so much. Just wanted to give you 3 examples how unpredictable English is because German is nothing like that. It's actually much better. In English, for example, the ending O-U-G-H. If you think there's one way of pronouncing that, you are mistaken. Have a look at these examples. Rough, plow, through, though, thought. Very different ways of pronouncing O-U-G-H. Well, that's very specific. I know. So let's take something easier, right? Like a double O. Double O is like a oo, right? Straightforward. Well, is it always a oo? No, it's not. Food, foot, floor, blood. Very irregular. All right, let's try one more. Maybe an EA sounds like E in English, right? Yes, it can, but not always. Eat, bread, steak, heart, beautiful. Crazy. German is not as crazy as that. German is very easy and straightforward. But you have to know the pronunciation rules. So here are some important letters and letter combinations for you in German. Let's start with the vowels. A, E, I, O, U. And as an example, a couple of names. Anna, Emil, Ida, Otto, Udo. And there is an umlaut version of 3 of them, as we've learned when we looked at the alphabet. I'll say the difference between the two. A, E, O, Ö, U, Ü. And some examples. Gast, Gäste, schon, schön, Hut, Hüte. I'm not going to go over the meaning of all words because this is dedicated to pronunciation. So the fun sometimes is to be able to pronounce something correctly. You don't even know what it means, but you can pronounce it correctly. That's the aim of today's video. So the vowels are straightforward, a, e, I, o, u, but there's one exception I'd like you to know about. The letter E, pronounced E, can sometimes sound like the umlaut ä, like in Ende, Hände, gelb, Gäste. So the letter E that sounds like E can also sound like ä. That's the only thing to bear in mind. If you're very confused because E, ä sounds very similar to you, well, it's a matter of time to practice, to listen again. And so this is all you have to do, getting used to it, but knowing about it is step number 1. Also, letter combinations like the E followed by the I. That is something you can absolutely rely on. If you have the 2 letters in exactly that order, they sound like I in English. For example, eins, zwei, drei, nein, Heinz, Heidi. There are a couple of numbers I'm using as examples, and if there is a number, I put the number in parentheses. Maybe you do know that the number one is eins, and maybe that's how you can remember that E followed by I sounds like I in German. Or you know the word for no, nein, and then you can use that to help you remember. Or those two names, Heinz and Heidi. Maybe you can use those to remember. Because if it's the other way around, if it's the letter I followed by E, that letter combination sounds like E in English. For example, sieben, Biene, Fliege, Riese, Liebe. Now, that's a very important thing to learn. That's what people mix up all the time. Which one sounds like E? Which one sounds like I? Well, these are the rules. E followed by I in English sounds like I in English. I followed by E in English sounds like E in English. It's always like that. If you focus on that, if you pay attention to that, you will never get it wrong again. Also, the letter combinations of an E and a U, or the umlaut E and a U, both of them sound identical. They sound like Oi in English. For example, Deutsch, Euro, Neun, Mäuse, Bäume, Allgäu. Yes, the word for German is Deutsch. Maybe you know that, and that's the one word you can use to help you. And yes, the euro, the currency, is not pronounced euro in German, it's pronounced Euro, because EU always sounds like Oi. There's also the combination of A and U, which always sounds like Au in cow. For example, Auto, August, Haus, Maus, Frau, Donau. And it's very tricky with words that do exist in English, like auto and August, and you want to say aw, but it's not aw, it's ow. It's always ow. Auto, August, Haus, Maus, Frau, Donau. A very funny thing about German pronunciation is that the F and the V can sound identical. Most of the time, when it's a German word, words with V sound like an F. For example, fliegen, fünf, Kaffee, Vogel, voll, aktiv. So you can't hear a difference between the words with an F and the V. They all sound like F. The only exception to that is when we have names or foreign words that were imported into the German language. In that case, you may pronounce them with a V sound, like Veronika, Victor, Video, Visum, Vanille. If it's not a German word, if it's an imported foreign word or a name, then the V is pronounced like a V. If that's not the case, then it's pronounced like an F. The letter R is kind of difficult, especially for Native American English speakers because of the strong R sound in the language. It's a bit easier for native British English speakers because of the more subtle sound of the R. And you'll see if we have an R at the end of the word, it's like British English. But if your native language is American English, you really have to learn to not say because that sound does not exist in the German language. So there are three different cases when the R is at the beginning of the word or the syllable, in the middle, or at the end. So at the beginning, it makes a strong sound. R. So if your native language is Italian or Spanish, then you go like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. But if your native language, like I said, is American English, then that's going to be very hard. You have to resist to say Please don't. So I put together a couple of names. They all start with R, like my own name, and it's a strong R. Renata, Rebecca, Rudolf, Ralf, Greta, Fred. A very strong R. Maybe not as strong as a double R in Spanish, but a single R. R. If the R is in the middle, and it can be the middle of the word or the middle of the syllable, well, in the middle of the word in this case, I think more, it is very subtle. And I found a couple of names again where we have the R in the middle. Gerda, Bertha, Jürgen, Ferdinand. So it's not strong. I don't say Gerda, Bertha, Jürgen, Ferdinand. No, I don't make it that strong. It's a little more glottal, like in the back of your throat, and it's subtle. It's really subtle. It's kind of there. Some people don't say it at all. Gerda, not saying it at all. Gerda, I could pronounce it a little. So that's your choice. You can either not say it at all and replace it with a sound, Gerda, Berda, Jürgen, Ferdinand, or you can pronounce it a little. Gerda, Bertha, Jürgen, Ferdinand. But if it appears at the end of the word, especially an ER at the end, the ER at the end is what we're looking at, then it's replaced with a very weak sound. Peter, computer. And even if it's in the middle of the word, like computer, tisch, I'm still not saying it. So computer, we pronounce it the way it sounds in English, just without the heavy R at the end. So if your native language is British English, you go like, yep, I'm very familiar with that. I can do that. Peter, no problem. Peter, computer. But if your native language is American English, you'll probably have a hard time not saying Peter and computer. Peter, computer, computer, Tisch. So the R is something to get used to, but there are clear rules on how to pronounce it. There's also a letter combination, PF. We don't say the letters, we don't say the letters separately. We pronounce them as one sound, like in Pfanne, Pfote, Apfel, Napf, Krapfen. So it is not Pfanne or Pfote. So don't try to separate them. They stay together as one sound. Pfanne, Pfote, Apfel, Napf, Krapfen. A very interesting pronunciation rule is also ST and SP at the beginning of the word or syllable. The ST sounds like an SHT, st, and the SP sounds like an SHP, sp. Here are some examples. Stadt, Stopp, Apfelstrudel, Sport, Spanien, Beispiel. So don't say stat or stop. Really remember it's st and sp. Stadt, Stopp, Apfelstrudel, Sport, Spanien, Beispiel. Then comes the letter Z or Z in British English. It sounds like a TS, like in the word facts. It's a t sound. So when you have a word like zebra that we have in English, don't say zebra. Don't make it a vibrating, soft z sound. It's a very sharp ts sound. Zebra. Zoo. Zeus. Zucker. 20. Tanzen. Katze. So sometimes the Z, or most of the times actually, the Z is on its own, and sometimes it's together with a T and a Z. But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't matter. We don't need the T to make the ts sound. The Z on its own does that all by itself. Zebra, Zoo, Zeus, Zucker, 20, Tanzen, Katze. And finally, this is just a surprise when you see it. I don't think it's an actual pronunciation challenge. German does not have words with SH when you have a sh sound, but an SCH. So whenever you have a sh sound in German, that is spelled as ch, like Schokolade, Schuh, Fisch, Tasche. So don't be confused when you see it. It sounds like the sh in English. All right, let's come to the last letter combination, which is the most difficult one, ch, because there are many different ways how you can pronounce ch, and there are also regional differences. So let's start with what I call the back ch, because you make the sound in the back of your mouth or in the throat. It happens when the ch comes after an a, o, u, or the au combination, like in the words machen, Tochter, Buch, auch. It's almost like you're trying to make a sound in the back of your throat. Machen, Tochter, Buch, auch. After an EI or the umlaut ö, or the letter U, you make a different CH sound, which I call the front CH sound. You make it in the front of your mouth, and it sounds like a hissing cat, like imagine a hissing cat. That's the best way to produce the sound. Like in rechts, ich, lächeln, Töchter, Bücher. The same sound is also something we find after the letter combinations EU, umlaut U, N, L, and R. Feucht, bräuche, manche, Dolch, durch. There is something called a diminutive. It's an ending. You put a CHEN at the end of a word and it makes it small, a little one. In Spanish, you have a iño, or in Italian, you have ino. So you make it smaller, a diminutive. And whenever you use that CHEN ending, the CH is also pronounced with the h sound. Like in Mädchen, Plätzchen, Hündchen. Now, a very different way of pronouncing CH is when you find it before the letter S, because then the CH and the S together sound like X, like Lachs, wachsen, Fuchs, nächste, Ochsen. Also, some foreign words can be pronounced with a K sound, like China, Chemie, Chaos, Charakter. Especially when it's a foreign word. When German imports foreign words into the German language, German tries to keep the original sound as much as possible. Therefore, there are also words that sound like a sh or a very soft j, like in the French word champagne, chance, chef, champignon, trying to preserve the French pronunciation as much as possible. And the same happens with English words. They just sound like English words, like the ch sound in checken, chip, champion, chatten. So the sound remains the way it was in French or in English. So these are all your different ways how you can pronounce CH. And yes, that's probably the most difficult letter combination because there's so many options. Like you saw, the others are pretty much straightforward. Now, are you ready to try yourself? Are you ready for the pronunciation challenge? Well, if you want to hear it again, just go back, watch it again, get ready, and when you think you are, come back and take the pronunciation challenge. What I'll do is I'll show an entire sentence. I know they're kind of no-nonsense sentences, and I'm going to tell you what it means, but I've tried to put as many of the words in there that we discussed. So I'll give you a few seconds, try, and then I'll say how it sounds. Or if you need more time, put the video on pause and then put it on play when you're ready. Here it goes. Peter macht Ida ein Brötchen mit Wurst und Käse. Now that was very slow so that you can hear every individual word. So Peter, remember, we do not say Peter, we say Peter. Then there's the back of the mouth CH sound, macht, because the CH comes after an A. Vowels I, da are pronounced that way. The EI letter combination sounds like I, so ein. You have an umlaut here and another CH sound, Brötchen. We have an R towards the end of the word. We don't say it, Wurst. And another umlaut like in Käse, and we do say the E at the end. The sentence simply means Peter is making a bread roll with cold cuts and cheese for Ida. That's all that it means. And here it is again, a little faster. Peter macht Ida ein Brötchen mit Wurst und Käse. Here's another one for you to try. If you need more time, put the video on pause. Rebecca fährt mit ihrer Mutter mit dem Auto in den Zoo und füttert ein Zebra. So we have our R sounds, umlaut sounds, the ER at the ending, this is just a the sharp Z sound in Zoo und Zebra, the AU sound in Auto. I hope you got it all right. I'll do it one more time, a little faster. Rebecca fährt mit ihrer Mutter mit dem Auto in den Zoo und füttert ein Zebra. Like I said, they're kind of no-nonsense sentences. This simply means Rebecca and her mother are going to the zoo by car and they're feeding a zebra. Here's another one. Again, if you need more time, put the video on pause. Here's what it sounds like. Eine Biene fliegt ganz alleine auf vielen Blumen im Garten herum. We have the EI combination, eine, followed by the IE combination, Biene fliegt, and then EI again, alleine, and then IE again, viele. So you have those words where you really have to pay attention to, is it EI or IE? Eine, alleine, Biene fliegt, vielen. Then we have the V sound that sounds like an F, vielen. We have the Z sound at the end, ganz. We have the R in the middle, Garten, herum. There's a little subtle R. And here's the whole thing one more time, a little faster. Eine Biene fliegt ganz alleine auf vielen Blumen im Garten herum. Simply meaning a bee is flying all alone through the garden and from one flower to another. So it's visiting many different flowers. Here's another one. Take a moment or put it on pause if you need to. And here's what it sounds like. Ein Fuchs und 8 Mäuse gehen in München spazieren. Again, no nonsense sentence. If you speak German and you understand, you're like, what? Yeah, it means a fox and 8 mice go for a walk in Munich. Well, but I selected the words for a particular reason. You have the UCSS, so the CHS letter combination that sounds like an X, ein Fuchs. Then you have the CH after an A, acht. And then you have the CH after the N, München, and the umlaut in München and in Mäuse. And then you have the SP sound that is like SHP, sp, followed by the sharp Z sounds, z, spazieren. So there are a lot of difficult sounds in that kind of no-nonsense sentence. Okay, one more time, a little faster. Ein Fuchs und 8 Mäuse gehen in München spazieren. Try another one. Okay, here it is very slowly. Die 4 Apfelstrudel und Kaffees kosten 22 Euro. Many difficult words in here. The V in vier, the V that sounds like an F. The PF sound Apfel, and then the ST that sounds like SHT, Strudel. And then more letter Z in the word 22, which means 22. And then the word euro that is pronounced Euro. It pretty much means the 4 apple strudel and the coffees cost 22 euros. I try to pack as many of those words we practiced into the sentence. And here it is a little faster, one more time. Die 4 Apfelstrudel und Kaffees kosten 22 Euro. And here's your last sentence to practice. Take a second. And here is what it sounds like. Fred und Gerda arbeiten nachts zusammen am Computer. So we have the 2 names with a subtle R sound, Fred und Gerda. Then we have the ER at the end that doesn't sound at all, Computer. Arbeiten, also where it doesn't sound. And then we have a CH in nachts, that's the H sound. We have a Z sound, zusammen. And the sentence pretty much means Fred and Gerda work together on the computer at night. One more time, a little bit faster. Fred und Gerda arbeiten nachts zusammen am Computer. Now, if you're ever in doubt about German pronunciation, you can come back to this video and study the pronunciation rules one more time. Or if you'd like to practice with me or take German lessons, this is how you can find me. Search for my name online, Renate Urban, or my company name, Urban Training and Services. Visit my website or connect with me on LinkedIn. Dear clients of mine, I hope this was a great review of German pronunciation. Everybody else, I hope you very much enjoyed an introduction to German pronunciation. If you like these type of videos, please come back to my channel. There are lots of videos about intercultural communication, job search across cultures, and foreign language learning. I mainly talk about English and German, those 2 languages that I mainly teach. So thank you for watching. Thank you for coming back. And if you like my channel, please do subscribe and hopefully see you again for another video soon. Have a great day. Goodbye.